All right, welcome back. We're ready to transition to the next topic, but Honorable Kuria Kimani says that he wants to add something because it's an interesting conversation on the integrity threshold of nominees and what would take a rejection of a nomination, having had a whole 10 years of experiencing this new constitution and what that means. What is your take on this?
Having considered what I said earlier about Ben Chumo and the conversation that actually his case has been drawn, in other jurisdictions, Ben Chumo could actually file a suit and say he was discriminated against, that he was not approved for the chairperson of Salaries and Remuneration Commission, a position that he applied for and he qualified for, and was only disapproved on the reason there was an ongoing court case about him. So I think this spurs a lot of need to critically think about the issue of what happens to a nominee if there's an ongoing court case. And again, it also means that someone could also maliciously charge or make claims against anybody in any court, and that could really disadvantage them. So I think there is need for scholars on the area of the rule of law and governance to really discuss and find and probably do papers and find out really what should actually really happen. Because, as I said, Ben Chumo could actually now say, he could file a suit and say, I was discriminated against. We've had a case of all these cases withdrawn against several, especially political figures, because I think what you're reading here is the charges against them were politically instigated. And so, to the question of the issue of the ongoing court case for the Honorable Aisha Juma. So what if, for example, we'd said that, no, we are going not to approve her because of an ongoing court case, and then later in the week, then the DPP withdraws the case against her. So I think the issue of having an ongoing court case, as the Honorable Senator said, unless you have exhausted all the appeal mechanisms or have really been found guilty and cannot explore any other judicial mechanism to clear your name, then you stand a chance to explain yourself and to continue to serve in any position that you will be nominated for. But really, this calls out for a lot of discussion. I think we really need to enhance whether it is our precedence law or what we get to make decisions on, whether it's our standing orders, whether it's a particular legislation on this particular matter. Otherwise, it's going to be an issue of balance of probabilities. Somebody could not be approved because they have an ongoing court case, and on the other hand, someone else gets approved because they have an ongoing court case.
All right, and of course, on page 4 of the Daily Nation, you'll see DPP under scrutiny as Gachagua graft case file recalled for review. Charges are being dropped by prosecutors or are standing on shaky ground due to weak investigations. DP Gachagua becomes the 5th close ally of President Ruto, whose case failed to take off in the recent past. Of course, last week we got a lot of withdrawals, including the matter against Aisha Juma, who is the cabinet nominee for public service. But the other co-accused persons, I think 6 of them, including plus a company, the charges will continue. Then Moses Lenol Kulal, the former governor of Samburu, there had been a withdrawal. Then the withdrawal was withdrawn by the DPP. And also there's a matter touching on Mithika Linturi, the charges, the case where he was facing charges of attempted rape. They were withdrawn after the complainant withdrew from the case. And then, of course, Ben Chumo that had other persons charged, including his successor at the Kenya Power by the name Ken Tarus, who was applied for the position of Principal Secretary and shortlisted by the Public Service Commission. I want us to focus on a different topic, and that is to do with some of the changes that have come since President William Ruto became president on the 13th of September 2022. It's been 35 days now, and recently he spoke about a special service unit that many Kenyans didn't know existed, that he blames for several killings that have occurred in the country, calls them extrajudicial killings. We want to listen to the president as he spoke about the disbandment of the unit as soon as it's ready. But let me begin with you, Honorable John Mutunga, because the conversation has been going on. People are saying, yes, there has been extrajudicial killings. The president says that he has disbanded that special service unit that was at the DCI. Before then, there was, is it special branch? Is it flying squad or whatever the name was? How do you take that decision by the president so far?
In management of the crime in this country, there has been many efforts put by the government to try and contain crime. Most of it has been the robbery with violence and bank robbery and a few others. In this case, we have heard many leaders speak about extrajudicial killing. And there has never been a clear pointer as to how does it happen or who does it and when does it happen and so on. But the recent revelations clearly show that groups have been rounded up and killed, and their bodies found in Rivayala and other places. And it means, therefore, there has been a articulate move to get specific individuals rounded up and gotten out, cleared from the face of the earth. And this has been an act, not basically as an accident, but a deliberate act to get rid of these people. It's the president's intonation indicated that some of this unit must have been created for a specific purpose. Though he did not say clearly it's the one which is doing it, but could have been given some special terms of reference. I remember the flying squad was actually flying in broad daylight and doing all sorts of things to make sure that they contain crime and also punish the culprits directly. We used to have a lot of people killed, especially if they're involved in some kind of violent robbery.
Literally flying.
They were moving very fast, using vehicles very fast, and shooting, and they used to go with open, ammunition and ready to kill at any one time. And we found so many people killed, as long as probably they were found in an act that was not an act of, indecency. That was categorized as some of those acts that needed to be attended by this particular special unit. So dismantling of this unit basically points a finger at what has the unit been doing. And then how do we, therefore, the question is how do we, why don't we trust our, the judicial service system? Why don't we trust our investigation arms of the government and the crime control systems that we put in place? And I believe the president intends to empower this unit and the various formations to do their work in the way it should be done, in view of the constitution and law, other than using other means to contain crime. When you look at the media reports, like what we saw last night, in terms of why were these people, probably rounded up and eliminated? Some of them could have been involved in some business, and probably this business is dubious, not very clear. And instead of investigating how they got into this and how is this leading them to, and where is it taking the country, you round up the people and kill them. That is not really good. It's not commensurate with the Constitution. It doesn't give us the protection that the Constitution offers in this country. It does not go. It's not in line with that protection.
Okay. All right. I want us to listen to what the president said so that you can put this into context before we move on. Listen.
Mambo ya usalama ikaharibika. Polisi wakabadilika wakawa ni watu wa kuwaua Wakenya badala ya kuwalinda. Tumevunja, mimi nimeamurisha juzi ivunjwe ile ilikuwa inaitwa special sijui nini ya police ambayo ilikuwa inaua Wakenya kiholela. That is the history we want to forget. Mambo ya usalama ilikuwa imezoroteka. Watu wanapatikana kule kwa sijui Rivayala, sijui watu wanapatikana huko wameuliwa kiholela. Kwa hivyo hawa jamaa tunawaambia hawawezi kutuzuia kubadilisha Kenya. Tunataka kubadilisha Kenya. Tuondoe Kenya ya zamani ambayo ilikuwa imejengwa kwa msingi ya vitisho.
All right, that's the president there. And I'll be raising a question with you based on what he can do or what he cannot do within the Constitution. But first, let's take an appreciation of what that said special service unit that many Kenyans didn't know existed was serving to do by looking at some of the slides that we have. Right. First of all, this is the statement that came. The DCI Special Unit has been disbanded with immediate effect. This follows a directive from the Acting Inspector General of Police, Nur Gabo. All officers serving in the disbanded unit have been recalled to the DCI headquarters for further instructions. That's a statement that came from the Police Service, National Police Service Commission, or rather, National Police Service. These are the roles of the Special Service Unit. First, to fight illegal firearms trafficking, to fight trafficking of narcotics, combat robberies involving firearms, fight stealing of goods in transit, and of course, the last one that has disappeared on me, that is fight illegal human trafficking. These were some of the responsibilities of the Special Service Unit. And there's this question that was also raised at the vetting of cabinet secretaries, and Attorney General nominee Justin Muturi was questioned on what he thinks about what the president did, because when you look at Article 245 of the Constitution, it talks about the Inspector General shall exercise independent command over the National Police Service and perform any other functions prescribed by national legislation, but also says that the Cabinet Secretary responsible, this is 245 clause 4, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for police services may lawfully give a direction to the Inspector General with respect to any matter of policy for the National Police Service, but no person may give a direction to the Inspector General with respect to the investigation of any particular offense or offenses, the enforcement of the law against any particular person or persons, or the employment, assignment, promotion, suspension, or dismissal of any member of the National Police Service. And then something else says that any direction given to the IG by the Cabinet Secretary responsible for police services must be, in as far as it should be, in writing. And then the Inspector General shall be appointed for a single 4-year term. So these are just some of the other provisions. Senator Manzo, before you listen to what Attorney General nominee Justin Muturi said, when you look at that article and the president confessing that he gave an order, where does that sit in law?
You see, the president is the boss of a minister. And when you see the specific mandate of these particular persons, there was, unless you pose a danger really, to the officer or to people, you cannot be eliminated. And even if you are eliminated, then that elimination should be owned by that particular police officer, and he'll explain circumstances under which you have killed that particular person, that they were a danger to you or they were a risk to another person's life. But what has been happening, people found in Rivayala, whether, you know, without a process, really is illegal. Yeah, every person who breaks the narcotics law or robs or is involved even with the terrorism. You know, we have a very serious terrorism unit, and we have a terrorist court facilitated to try people, you know, charged with the worst form of crime, which is terrorism, which affects even people massively. So I think these officers went beyond their mandate. And when you say you disband and you send them back to DCI to allocate them other duties, really, what stops them from eliminating people still? So I believe the law should be followed. And what happens normally is everybody should be given a chance, unless there are risks to life, unless you cannot be able to arrest them, unless they are going to kill the officers. Well, the reasonable force should be used to apprehend those people, and eliminating somebody is as the last resort. So the act of the president, and I'm sure having been a deputy president, he understands where this came from, and he's the one who was, in fact, in chairing the security committees. He's very well briefed on this matter. So if you look at their mandate and what used to be the end result, I think whoever officer eliminated anybody then should be prosecuted. it should be investigated, either there be an inquiry, an investigation, and a prosecution. It's the only fair thing one can do. And then the officer will get an opportunity to explain himself and defend himself under what circumstances that person was eliminated. And even if you eliminate, you don't go and throw somebody into a river. You let their family understand what their son or daughter did, and they have a decent burial for that particular person. But you cannot really throw them in a river and then they are discovered accidentally. I believe the law was not followed. But still, disbanding is not the solution.
And so, because, I mean, majority of Kenyans are in agreement that indeed you should not have a unit whose way of doing things is killing. You said that killing should be the last resort, but I think it should actually not happen within...
no, the law allows...
Unless there's a court order that you've been sentenced to death.
Well, even people are no longer sentenced to death in Kenya. They are jailed for life, owing to the new constitution and the interpretation thereof. But if somebody attacks this institution or where we are now, and there is an officer who saves lives by eliminating that particular person, then that incident will be recorded, and the officer will explain under what circumstances did I shoot him dead. And they will not hide his body and throw it into a river. The officer will own that I'm the one who has executed this, and there was danger to several to lives of others. When there is danger to life of another person, you can actually shoot and kill. And it is explained and it is excused in law. There is also what you call a misadventure, an accident, a stray bullet. You still not hold the officer accountable under the penal code. But where you willfully eliminate somebody who is not a danger, or you decide to become a court, you assess and you kill that person and without a court process, it is wrong, and that particular officer should be prosecuted.
Yes, so fine. But then again, procedurally, can the president do that within the constitution? That's the question I'm asking.
What the president has done in these circumstances has taken the powers of a minister in charge of security. The constitution does not talk of the president. And the reason the constitution talks of minister in charge of security, it means there are certain processes which must be explained by the minister. It means certain things have happened. What the president has done in these circumstances it amounts like a presidential order of some sort. Owing to that, somebody has gone to implement and even write, do it in writing. I think there's something incorrect about that. The president at the same time he's sitting with the current cabinet before a new cabinet comes into place. So I believe there should have been, the current minister should have been directed to implement the constitution. So he has tried to explain himself. But he knows very well what used to happen. He was part of that process. Why did he not stop it then, those days when he was a deputy president? Why did he not discuss it in the Security Committee? Why did he not instigate prosecution of the officers? He knew very well what they were doing. So just by disbanding, he has not helped. There should be further orders to investigate, to do inquiries, and to bring those people into justice, because the people who have been eliminated are known and their families are known. Why can't he then use the same powers to let us know the killers of Mosan? There are quite a number of other people who have been killed.
Right.
We should know also what happened to them. He should use the same powers also to order the investigation and their killers be brought to book.
But you are saying he can't. I mean, he cannot legally order for what you're asking for. But to cut him some slack, I think a few weeks before the election, he said that he had been blocked from attending the National Security Council meetings, that there are certain senior officials within that council that were no longer picking his calls. Those were his words, not mine.
His words, yeah, but his explanation now. His explanation now.
Senator Manzo, let's listen to what Attorney General nominee Justin Muturi said when this question was posed to him by Suna East MP Junet Mohammed. Watch.
The president is the hand of the executive, and it is quite in order for him to use what has been said by his cabinet secretary, maybe quietly, it is quite open to the president to say it publicly that that he has instructed for this to happen. Remember, indeed, he is the foremost spokesperson of the government and indeed of the country. And therefore, I don't see any interference, so to speak, with the functioning of police. And I think we all must allow that from time to time, communication will be made which explains what government is doing with regard to various activities that are taken by various agencies.
All right, I'll get back to you later, Senator Manzo, whether that answer is convincing. But Honorable Kimani Kuria, so once we agreed that indeed certain changes were needed to secure the justice sector, but how should it happen? Because already there has been resignations of the DCI, of the Inspector General, and you don't know what happens behind the scenes. Is it possible for the president to effect certain changes behind the scenes without even having to say that he ordered certain things that would appear to run against the Constitution?
I'll try to refrain myself from the technicality of how it was done and choose to go to the substance of the matter. Mm-hmm. I think on the 31st of July of 2022 or thereabout, our immediate former president said in vernacular, when we said that there were plans to kill particular leaders in Kenya Kwanza, and said, have I not had all the power to do that? Why would I do it in the last times of my term when I have less powers? And this is the commander-in-chief. So when you have a government being led by somebody who believed and said on national television that he had the powers to kill but did not use them.
Is that what he meant? Or he meant, because I think that was, what time was it? It was close to the end of the term.
It was on that 1st of July. He said this in vernacular in Kikuyu, that he had all the powers to do, don't accuse me of killing. I had the power, I'm trying to I don't want to speak Kikuyu here, so I'm trying to translate fast in my head. I had the powers to do this because I had all the power for all this time. So why would I want to do it at the end of my term? Look for that clip, if you can, and if you can't even play it here. He said that. And that is what he said on national TV. And then you have a department within the office of the DCI that feels that listen to that as their commander-in-chief, and now they're supposed to handle a particular matter. We heard also the former president on many occasions says he's frustrated with the judiciary because he doesn't think the judiciary is acting fast enough. Subsequently, we have, I think around the report by Missing Voices on 10th of June saying that there were 39 bodies that have been retrieved from Yala River. But what do we see in the bodies? All the 39 bodies had their hands tied. Most of them had missing fingers, and most of them had their faces disfigured. And these are all the 39 cases, the 39 bodies at different stages of decomposition, which therefore means that there was either somebody or a group of people that were deliberately doing this for whatever reason in a particular way. So this was not any coincidence that all these bodies are in River Yala. All of them have distinct marks of missing fingers, disfigured faces, and at different stages of decomposition. So if by disbanding this body or department or whatever you call it, it sends a message that, one, if you are a police officer and you get to kill somebody for whatever reason, then we are going to hold you personally liable, because after all, the department that should shield you from even knowing this particular person who did the job is not there anymore. Because there has been those conversations about some police officers who you assign these responsibilities. They don't have a name per se. Even the geographical, like they would go off radar, like you wouldn't even tell where they are, and the equipment they would use, whether it's guns or whatever they would use, then they have that record at the armory. And there is a lot of documents, because if once this report came out, we've had now, I think I saw on Citizen TV, I think it was yesterday, now the number of those missing people rising to, I think, 629 or something like that. So, again, let's not go to the technicality of how it was done, but is it being the right decision? We're dealing with a time of a new constitutional dispensation. People should have the right to criticize, to say, and to speak their mind. And where somebody has broken the law, then we should follow the due process of the law. And nobody should be allowed to take a law in their hand. And we need to send that message, that you cannot continue killing people. You cannot continue taking power in your hands. It doesn't matter whether you're frustrated because that person was not served justice in the judicial system or not. You still have no reason to kill that particular person. And again, to bring it again to perspective, the discussion we had earlier of the high-profile cases, some of them being withdrawn.
Right.
So what if then the police officers who were doing the arrests, at the particular arrest, then did actually get to shoot them because they thought they were guilty? Only for a few years later for us to get a report from the DPP that those cases have been drawn. So if we are going to tell people like that, let it, whatever is good for the goose should be good for the gander. Everybody, irrespective of their crime, let them go to court, let them be provided for, because it's even there in the Constitution, let them be provided even with a legal counsel by the government so that they get to have a fair hearing.
Mheshimiwa, let me just read you through, because you stated something that you had in Kikuyu. Let me read you what I had in English here. And President William Ruto, or that time he was deputy president, had said that now you're threatening me, what will you do to me? As long as you don't kill my children, let us respect each other. Of course, he spoke in Kapsabet town, Nandi County. Then I think the day after, which I think was in Nairobi, President Kenyatta said that there's no need to tell people that I want to kill you. You have all been insulting me for 3 years and no one has bothered you. Now, when I am about to hand over power, you claim that I have the time to pursue you. It's a question that he was posing. And he spoke in Nairobi on the 31st of July. I don't know whether what you had is different from that or it's the same thing.
The report I have from All Africa says, finish that sentence, didn't I have all the power? It's a question of, you and I will, the good thing you and I speak the same language, so we'll listen to the clip after this and we'll analyze it. Because sometimes when you translate, speech
this was in English actually.
From vernacular to, sometimes you get to lose a message. But anyway, there was that particular feeling a lot. And even if you listened to the mood, let me go to the Jubilee times of 2017 actually, and I'm guilty of that. When we had a lot of discussions about Raila Odinga, you would hear these tones in the village. And again, I am guilty for even at a particular time thinking about that. And people would say, who is this person who will continue to disturb this government for so long? Can't we just have somebody, just shoot him or something? And that was in reference to Raila Odinga. And you'll hear a lot of that undertones in the village. And that was an open discussion, like, why do we have to deal with this Odingaism for so long? Why can't we just, eliminate this particular person? And I'm talking about this tone being discussed in the deep rural villages of Mukinyai. And so if we had a people thinking like that, then we really need to have a change of heart and a change of tone to have people stop thinking like that. As a politician, for example, we have these social media people that, will be on your case in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. And I had got a lot of friends and family members telling me, no, Mheshimiwa, you cannot be abused like this. Kwani, who is this person? Why can't you do something? Okay. And you know what they meant by doing something is not taking them to court. You know, what they meant by doing something is probably torturing somebody or eliminating somebody. So there has been a lot of that conversation around the streets. And I think this discussion about disbanding this special unit calls for a conversation for us as Kenyans. Okay. That we cannot solve our problems by killing people, that we have to enhance our judicial system, and if we have an issue with somebody, take them to court, let them go through the judicial system, and the judicial system to do their work. That is the way to deal with crimes and problems and ruling in this country.
I hear you, and Honorable John Mutunga, you've been quiet for a couple of minutes now, and as we move on to now the next level, because at the end of this week, the committee that is vetting CSS will have finished with their work, and they have to report back to the House by 28th of October. Then thereafter, the government will start to take real shape. It is already. But how then, even as we make all these changes, do we nurture that culture of rule of law and constitutionalism? Because some of the questions that were posed, even the vetting yesterday, it was touching around that, so that even when the president gives certain instructions, they are really within the law, so that you don't lose a good intention because of procedure.
First of all, I would like to look at it slightly differently. Probably the reason why the president decided to dismantle this unit. And before I come to that, let's go back to the swearing in. The president swore in to protect the lives of all Kenyans. In his speech, in his inaugural speech, he clearly declared that he's going to protect everyone. He will run a transparent and accountable government. And he said he would like to have a robust opposition that will basically hold the government to check. Further to that, when he came to open parliament, he repeated the same, that he would like to be held accountable. Now, here you are promising Kenyans that you want to do your job in a transparent and accountable manner. And then there's a special service unit here which has assignments that do not look like they are transparent and accountable. So as a president and your promise to Kenyans, I would only imagine that you would basically do away with that unit. I would imagine that because the president did not say this unit, he said there has been killing of Kenyans and so on. And therefore he did away with that particular unit, which could have been attributed to these killings. So I would like to imagine that he said that to open up for Kenyans to know that there are no special considerations, there are no special arrangements which would bypass the rule of law and the constitutionalism in terms of dealing with Kenyans. Coming back to how do we move forward and how do we ensure there is the rule of law and all that. First of all, the essence of vetting is to try and hear these people out, hold them responsible of their own, confessions. They are telling Kenyans what they want to do, what they are made of, in fact, their backgrounds and everything. And they are telling Kenyans, they are giving Kenyans promises, how they are going to run their government, their dockets of the government, given the opportunity. And we can always hold them responsible. We can quote what they said during the vetting period if we find them going astray from what they will have said. Now, the idea is to give Kenyans hope. And in the presidential speech, he actually said about 7 or 8 things that basically provided hope for Kenyans. Creation of the Hustler Fund, promising Kenyans that is going to uplift the youth and so on, creating the issues of health, universal health, issues of saving and so on and so forth. So all those things create hope. But when you look at the Constitution, the president is also bound by the Constitution. Article 35, Section 2 of Article 35 clearly specifies that the Kenyan is entitled to the truth of, to any information, and the true version of that information, and correction of this particular information, as it were. Now, when you look at the president saying, I want to run an accountable and transparent government, and then there are disclosures which have not been done, I don't think you stand in front of us and tell us so. We are such a special service unit. You would first of all clear all those dubious and not unclear areas, and basically, now promise the country, give country hope that we are running this country in a constitutional, using the Kenyan Constitution, and the rule of law will prevail. That's what I think.
And Honorable